Like Monica said, my name's Mike Zerega. I work here at Komatsu Mining in our underground soft rock division. And I'll get into what all that means. And I am the procurement manager for our North American supply chain group. So to let you guys know who is here today, you have a star-studded cast of Komatsu personnel on the phone with you. So there's myself as procurement manager, and then I invited my senior team to join us. And they're really the experts in all of our various categories. But when you look at our North American supply chain group, we buy a whole bunch of stuff externally, and we've categorized it into 6 high-level categories. And the folks joining us today are the owners and managers of each of those high-level categories, and then they'll have folks underneath them that assist with order placement and various subcategories of groups and all that. But to explain a little bit, we have Claudette Johnson, who runs our mechanicals division. So that's a lot of rotating components, motors, seals, bearings, gears, that sort of stuff. We have Jim Angelini. He's our senior buyer for electrical. So that's all the wires and cables and contactors and that sort of stuff to connect the various electrical components on our machines. We have Mark Graham, who runs our raw materials buying. And so that's all of our castings and forgings and those types of products that go further on down the chain to eventually make components that we sell. We have Bob Karachi, who runs our electronic group. So that's going to be any of the smart electronics in our machines, any types of chips and boards and display computers, that sort of stuff, really to add the smarts to our machines. We have Bill Ross, who is in charge of our machining group. So that's what it sounds like, any type of machine component where we're using some type of casting and machining it, bar stock, plate, whatever it is. He'll manage that group. And then we have Heather Hartzell, who manages our fabrication. So anything being welded together to become some type of component that we use. So they should be able to answer all the questions you have. They have a world of experience with the company. They've been here for way longer than I have a way better knowledge base of our product. And so hopefully they're able to help you out a ton as you talk to them later on. So before I dive into what Komatsu is and the group that you're actually talking to and kind of what we do, I wanted to start with the number one thing in everything we do, and that's not just for our group. This is a Komatsu-wide philosophy. So for those on the phone that have met with us before, you've heard these acronyms. It's what we live by. It's SLQDC. So what do those letters mean? It's the hierarchy of every sourcing decision that we make. It's the hierarchy of everything we do, whether internal or external. And it's really the core principle of how Komatsu operates, not just our group, but it is our group, Milwaukee group, Japan group, everything. That is a company-wide Komatsu philosophy is SLQDC. It starts off with safety. So our customers work in an incredibly dangerous environment, being in the mining industry. So safety is critical for them, and in turn, safety is critical for us. And I'm sure every single one of you, safety is critical for you guys as you run your companies. So safety, if you don't have it, you might as well just hang up the phone now because we're not going to go any further. So from there, we move into law. Obviously, we want all of our supply base to apply with any local regulations, rules, laws that are in place. And you'll notice that laws after safety, because we as a company are totally fine with you breaking the law if it means you're doing something to be safe. Safety is number one. We want everyone to leave work the same way they came to work. Next, we move into quality. Quality is a core principle of Komatsu. Going all the way back to the 1940s or 50s when Komatsu started their expansion globally, they weren't known as a high quality supplier. And so what they decided to do was really focus on quality and make it the core of their product offering. So we will fully admit that what we sell to our end customers is not always going to be the cheapest option, but it is going to have the highest quality and it's going to have the highest reliability and it's going to work the best for you. And that in turn, we think will drive the value proposition of us as a customer but we can't deliver quality unless our supply base delivers quality. So moving on then to the D and the C, this is where this group and the procurement team comes into play a ton. So delivery and cost. When we talk about the importance of our supply base and what we manage with our supply base, first off is delivery, because you could give it to me for free, but if it's 6 months late, that doesn't do me anything. And then we go to cost. And so when we grade our suppliers on how they're doing over time, our scorecards are very heavily focused on delivery and what your on-time delivery is and cost. And so for whatever reason, these 5 pieces aren't critical to your business, then that's where we're not going to have a jive and we're not going to get along and agree on stuff, because this is what's absolutely required for anything happening here at Komatsu. So I've shared this slide before when I've talked with suppliers and external folks, but I think it's a good thing to kind of just share with you guys what our philosophy is as a supply chain. And it comes down to how we go about managing our supply base. So to us, our product is a very customized, specialized product that's going into a very dangerous environment. And so because of that, we're not in the game of constantly looking for new sources. And so if you look at kind of 2 main ways for any group to manage their supply chain, I've seen it termed this way, where there's a hunting style and an agriculture style. So hunting style, you're always looking for the best deal. I know it's the way I do my own shopping. When I'm looking at Amazon or at the grocery store or whatever, I'm pretty much just shopping for what's the cheapest. But here at Komatsu, we are much more of an agriculture style, where we focus on finding that core strategic supply base and really working with them to develop. So we don't want to be constantly retraining new suppliers how to make our parts. We want a supplier to come in, learn our parts, and then we work together to make it better. So we do a lot of joint initiatives with our main suppliers. We do a lot of, hey, what can you guys do with this to make it better? Or what suggestions do you have for us? We want cost out. How can we do this widget a little bit simpler? How can we use different components to deliver it faster? All those types of things. But we don't like to just go, hey, I need 5% off or else we're moving the business. So we really focus on that agriculture side. And what that means for you is that it is incredibly hard for you guys to become a supplier of ours. So I know, not being a supplier to Komatsu, that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear, oh, it's very easy to jump in the door and I can prove my worth and all that. It is very tough to become a supplier of ours, but the flip side of that is once you are a supplier, it's very hard to lose us as a customer. You really have to work to lose the business, because we're always going to be trying to let you know this is where we're struggling, help us grow together, help us improve together. So now into the fun stuff. For those of you that don't know Komatsu and don't know this business, you'll hear me say a bunch of different terms during this, and you'll see it all over these slides. But you'll hear Komatsu, you'll hear P&H, you'll hear Joy, you'll hear Monobert, and you'll kind of go, what the heck do all these different names mean? So overall, Komatsu is the owner of this company. Komatsu is a Japanese company. A lot of people know them from construction equipment that you'll see on the side of the road, different backhoes and wheel loaders and that sort of stuff. But Komatsu has a couple main divisions, and one of their main divisions is what they call the mining division. And that is everything to support the mine site. And a couple years ago, they bought a company called Joy Global, who focused on large surface mining equipment and underground mining equipment. And as we've gone down this path of integration, we now recently became one organization, but the mining group, as far as what is in the USA, it consists of these 3 product lines as well as some legacy Komatsu product lines. And overall, it's a global organization. We have customers all over the world. We have 10,000 plus employees. We have locations everywhere. And specifically for our business and the group you're talking to, I'll share in a couple slides to show you our global footprint. And it is truly a global business. And so even though we're in Pittsburgh, You guys are in the Pittsburgh area. Your products are going everywhere across the world. And so to explain in a little bit clearer picture of kind of who you're talking to, I love this slide. So this kind of shows you the full suite of products that Komatsu Mining offers. And so we love the saying that if it's not growing, it's mined. And so with that, there's only two ways to mine. You either do it on the top of the earth or you do it inside of the earth. And for both of those options, we're providing equipment to you as Komatsu. So in this graph or in this chart, you'll see a whole bunch of yellow equipment that's up on the top of the world. And all that stuff is a combination of products that Komatsu used to make and that P&H business used to make. And that's where you'll see it all yellow. And to explain a little bit, you'll see these gigantic dump trucks on here. That's a legacy Komatsu product. You'll see the giant shovels that they have. That's a legacy P&H product. They've now been combined into one business that has a distribution model to their customer base, and they supply customers all over the world. That business is headquartered out of Milwaukee, and it roughly is the same size, a little bit bigger, but roughly the same size as our underground business. We interact a little bit with that group as far as we share processes, we share systems, but for our group, what we focus on is the orange equipment that you'll see on this slide. And so all the orange stuff is legacy Joy product. So Joseph Joy was our founder. He kind of created the first automated shovel, and then from there just kind of grew the product portfolio to where now we are the main provider of room and pillar mining equipment in the world. And we also have a very strong market share in our Longwall Mining business as well. And we'll get into that. So when we talk about what this group is that you're talking to and the group that I manage as far as supply chain, it's everything in this center left of the screen that we classify as soft rock mining. And that's where there's two main tight ways to do that between room and pillar mining, which I'll go into in a little bit, and longwall mining. But it's about $1 to $2 billion in business globally, depending on the year. We're in a down cycle now. When we're in the up cycle, we'll get closer to that 2 billion mark. But we have customers everywhere. And the important thing with that is that we are a direct to the customer manufacturer. So what we make is highly specialized and highly customized to what our customers need. We're not just making 10,000 units of one type of machine, sending it out to distribution and say, okay, go sell these. We're working direct with the customer and saying, oh, okay, you need a machine that can meet these types of specifications for your specific coal seam. Okay, we're going to go ahead and design a machine specifically for you. So to go into what our main customer base does, we are still about 70% driven by coal mining. And so everyone sits here in the US and goes, oh, coal mining, that's a dying industry, sweet. But in the US, it's absolutely on a downward trajectory, but globally it is not. And that's why we're a global business and our products are designed for all around the world. And so I wanted to share this, and this is specifically for the US electricity generation mix, but wanted to show how, yes, we've absolutely declined since 2014. That's driven mostly by electricity switching over to natural gas. Before I worked for Komatsu, I worked for a natural gas company, so I've been on both sides of that fence. But the important thing to point out is that going out even 8 years from now, there's still a proportion of our energy mix here domestically that will be driven by coal, and that'll continue to happen. So as this North American market shrinks, we're starting to rethink how we build things. We're rethinking our supply base. We're rethinking our network and how we operate in order to support the change in the market fundamentals that our customer base sees. So this will continue. And then, like I said, there are growth regions around the world. So places like China, Russia, India, those are our big growth markets. because even with everything going on with renewables, everything going on with natural gas, coal continues to be the cheapest source of electricity in the world. So when you have a country like India that has over 1 billion people living in it that don't all have electricity, if they need electricity, still the cheapest way for them to get it for their people is through coal mining. There's also some tough things, especially with natural gas, where great, we have all the natural gas we could ever need in North America, but you can't easily get it outside of this continent. It's very hard to ship that product, whereas coal is a much easier product to ship. And that's why there will continue to be a proportion of our domestic supply always coming from coal. So continuing on our kind of market overview, like I said, we know the market in North America is declining. You know, we sit here, we see all the metrics, we see where it's going, we're not hiding from it. Instead, we're redesigning how we operate as a company in order to match this marketplace. Our customers require it, and so just like we work with our suppliers closely, our customers work closely with us to redesign our products, make them a better form, fit, function for the environment and for the market, so that we can both continue to operate in a profitable manner. So we will now go into specifically how we operate to give you guys an idea how Joy and Komatsu Underground Mining likes to work. So overall, when I talk about how we operate with our customers, the biggest value proposition we give to them is quality and service. So we've set up our business to always be close to the customer. We have service centers and warehouses that overlap with the main markets for our products across the world. We balance that localized support with a very knowledgeable and detailed centralized support function that comes out of this Pittsburgh area. So we have 3 main offices in Pittsburgh. One's up in Franklin, Pennsylvania, where the company was founded. Our global headquarters for the business is here in Warrendale, Pennsylvania, or Cranberry Township, about 20, 30 minutes north of Pittsburgh. And then we also have our global distribution center that's south of Pittsburgh in the Meadowlands area. And as far as how we operate here for North America, we use all 3 of those offices. So the folks that are on the phone from my team today are actually representatives of all 3 of those locations. And we share resources, we move around between those, and really take advantage of having those 3 different areas in the Pittsburgh region. So what our business focuses on, especially as the market declines, you see a lot less customers buying brand new equipment. Instead, they prefer to take equipment that's been in use, rebuild it, and try and get more use out of it. Because the more tons you can put into a machine, the more profitable you can be as an organization. When times are great and coal prices are sky high, everyone wants new equipment because it's going to run the best, it's going to be the most efficient, awesome. When prices are low and the market's shrinking, you use what you have in order to save those limited CapEx dollars and enable yourself to be a profitable operation. So some good examples here to kind of see what we do, but you see in the bottom left of this slide, before a rebuild, after a rebuild, we literally take something that looks like it should be on a scrap heap. We bring it into our facility, completely strip it down, figure out what on that works still, what on it doesn't work anymore, what needs replaced, what just needs refurbished, all those good things. We do all that work, all that rebuild cycle, and when you turn it around and it leaves the facility, it looks almost like a brand new piece of equipment. And so this is where our supply base comes into play, is that we don't have a great understanding of what it is we're going to need tomorrow. Because depending on the orders that you get and the condition of the machines as they come into our facilities, that's what drives what we need. And so that's why delivery is so important for us, is because if you can't deliver to the timeframes that you need, we can't rebuild a machine fast enough to then in turn get it back to our customer and get them cutting again. Because for every day that this machine is in our plant being rebuilt, it's not underground making them money. It's just costing them money. So I had mentioned before the 2 main businesses in soft rock mining, and it's really the two different methods for mining coal and other metals or other industrial minerals. So there is a longwall method of mining, which is a very expensive way to do it. The equipment costs an arm and a leg to get. It's very complex. It's very big, but it's the most profitable way to mine. You're going to get 100% of the reserves that you're trying to get because you literally have what are called powered roof supports, which is all this long panel that you see at the top, and that literally holds up the earth while there's a machine that just shaves a section of it out, which is your mineral that you're trying to get, and the whole machine will advance forward as you mine, and the mountain literally falls down behind you as you go. So you get all that production, you get all that equipment, you're leaving nothing behind, but you need a whole bunch of CapEx dollars to get to that. So the equipment is specifically designed for the mine, and this is where we get into very customized products, and this is where we get into our suppliers needing to be subject matter experts in the specific components that they make for us. It leads us to be very aligned with our suppliers and very hesitant to switch suppliers, because once they become experts in those components, we don't want to risk the value of this entire system just to save a couple bucks on a couple parts here or there. So the other method of mining is called room and pillar mining, and it's a much more cost-effective way to mine, but you do leave product underground. And so pretty much what you do is you have an area that you want to mine, and you leave sections of it uncut that support the earth above you. And so that's why it's room and pillar, because you literally cut rooms out and leave pillars that keep the mine from collapsing on you. To do this, there's equipment, specifically a continuous miner, which is down in this bottom right. And that's just exactly what it sounds like. It's a drum with a bunch of mining picks on it that spins, and it cuts earth up and down, collects it as it cuts, spits it out the back. Now, that's a great way to very cost effectively cut material out of the ground. The hard part then is how do you get that out of the mine? And that's where the rest of our product line in that room and pillar business comes from. So there's shuttle cars, which is an electrified corded car that's basically an underground pickup truck that fills up with rock. Then you can drive it over to where you're getting it out of the mine and you drop it off. Same idea over here with a battery hauler, except that one's battery powered. There's no cord tailing you around as you drive through the mine. Issues there, batteries need to recharge. Shuttle cars don't need to recharge. So when you talk about the production of a mine and how efficiently can you get rock out of the earth so that you can go sell it and make money, you have to weigh that decision as a mining organization. But here at Komatsu, we'll weigh the benefits, we'll weigh the risks, we'll give you what we think is best, and we'll sell you either product. We also have a whole suite of products for getting that material out of being underground. A lot of time mines are 1-2 miles deep. There's long paths you have to take to get stuff. You don't want to be driving a shuttle car back and forth. So we have a whole business around conveying systems that we set up. We even have a product line that's called a flexible conveyor train, where there's a conveyor that'll snake behind this continuous miner all the way throughout the mine. And that way, as you move around and do things, the conveyor moves with you. And it all comes down to how can I most profitably and efficiently get product that I'm cutting out of the earth to the surface so that I can go sell it. So that whole suite of products, there's things I'm leaving out here. There's roof bolters, there's drills, there's entry drivers, there's all these things, but it's all just different pieces of equipment to help you fully produce out of a mine. The bad side of that is when you're done, all those pillars that you left to make sure that the earth didn't fall down on top of you are still there. And you can't really go sell it because the second you take that out, the earth is going to collapse on you and you no longer have a mine. So that's a look at our product line in general. We're buying all the components that go into these. These machines have thousands and thousands of little parts and pieces that all go together. And what we do here at Komatsu is really assemble all those pieces together. We don't really make many things from scratch. We rely on our supply base to do that. And then we get those components from you, and we're either selling them direct to our customers as replacement parts, or we're using them in our own manufacturing centers to assemble these finished machines that we sell to the customers. So global footprint. I promised y'all that we are a global company. So this map kind of shows it. So you see a whole bunch of dots here in the US, and that's driven by, in a little bit, I'll show you the breakout of where the US stands as far as our overall business. But we do have these facilities all over the world. So I mentioned China, India, Russia, those are the growth areas where coal mining is increasing and coal use is increasing. And so China, for instance, has more coal reserves than the rest of the world combined. So obviously we want to take the Joy name and brand that is a very well-respected, huge market share brand, go to the China market and prove to them that by buying our equipment, it might be more than the local China company, but it's going to produce at a way better rate and pay itself off. We also have facilities in the UK. The UK doesn't do as much underground mining as they historically did, but we do still have some customers there, especially in the industrial minerals segment. And then South Africa and Australia are just very consistent, flat businesses for us. They're not declining like the North American market is, because they're a lot closer to these sale points in Asia, but they're also not growing. So it's a strong business. We support that business very well. They're supported from here in the US and the work that we do. And they also have their own supply chain organizations there for a little bit of work, because these are all manufacturing centers as well. So everything that we're doing here in the US as far as rebuilding or doing new equipment, they also have the capability to do that in each of these regional centers. So like I've been saying, we're a very customer-focused business, and because of that, our footprint matches up with where our customers are. And so you look at this map, and the purple is all the main coal fields in the United States, and all the flags are different facilities that we have here in the underground business world. It's a mix of warehouses versus reman centers versus production facilities. But you can see here in Appalachia, where the big coal belts are, we have a whole bunch of facilities there, and that's to support our customer base. We also have some facilities over in the Illinois basin, and then we also have some facilities out west. But you'll see this copied across the world. We're big on being near the customer so that when they need us and they're having issues with their machines, we're there to support them. And that's, again, our value proposition is we're not just going to sell you a piece of equipment and say, thanks for the sale, see ya. Our goal is to sell them the OE, then sell them the rebuild, then sell them the service, then sell them the improvements. And then on the back end, when that machine's completely worn out, then we go and sell them OE again. And we build up that long-term relationship. And we've had that relationship now for decades and decades. So that's the name that Joy has. That's why we didn't drop the Joy name when Komatsu took over, because the Joy name in the underground mining world is more prestigious than Komatsu will ever be. So we didn't want to give up that kind of ability to walk into a mine and say, hey, we're Joy. So they see that bright orange and they know they're getting a quality product, and they know they're going to be the most efficient as they can be in their operation. So now we'll get into the stuff that you guys are really interested in, and it's what we mainly outsource and what we're looking for from our suppliers, and we'll see where you guys can fit in. So these are the main high-level categories of what we purchase. So we have motors, we have gears and shafts, chains, cutting elements, gear cases, all these types of things. And each of these product lines also have subcomponents within them. But Joy's big on specialty design, and we design pretty much everything ourselves. It's very rare that we just buy off-the-shelf stuff. So, for instance, controls and automations, where they're designing the software, programming the software, buying the control panels, designing the control panels, doing all that work on our own. but not actually making it, relying on third-party manufacturing to do it for us. We have a big business in XP product because obviously in an underground mining environment, you do not want any type of explosion. And if you do, you want to keep it contained. So that's something that we specialize in providing for our customers, is product that is up to those standards. The hydraulic world is huge for us. We spend a ton of money there. Gears and different machine products, that's a big business of ours, not only on the front end, but then on the rebuild side, because gears obviously wear out, especially in a tough environment. And then everything that goes into actually cutting rock in our drums and our cutting systems, that's critical because that's really the bread and butter. That's what's making money for our customers, is when the pick actually hits the rock, gets it out of the earth, and you can go and take it to the surface and sell it to someone. So if you guys are fitting into any of these categories, that's where we're going to be interested in talking to you and seeing how you can help us out. So I mentioned our global distribution center in the Meadowlands, and this goes back to kind of that global footprint. So the nice thing about talking with this group today that you'll be working with is our North American supply chain organization is, yes, majority North American suppliers like yourselves, but it's not just to support the North American market. So where I showed all those screens of the North American market doing this, you kind of sit there and go, oh, well, these guys are a dime business, not worth my time. But our distribution center in Meadowlands, PA, is our global distribution center. So we are buying a whole bunch of components. We send it to that distribution center, and then that facility expands and spokes out to the rest of the world and provides the regions with the components that they need, especially with products that are very intellectual property sensitive, or we feel like we have some type of competitive advantage. We don't want to let those drawings and capabilities out to the world. Especially to a region like China that I'm sure everyone is aware of the IP type issues they have. We make sure that, okay, our product, will keep it here. We'll send that finished product over to China, but we don't want to teach that local market how to make it, because then we're just creating our own competitors for the future. So we are a hub and spoke model, and we'll continue to be, but the Pittsburgh area is really the heart of our company, where everything runs through this GDC and sends out to the world, both North America, externally to other regions, to different warehouses, to different OE plants, and even direct to North American customers. So everything's running through there. Another good piece of news for you, and one of the benefits of Komatsu purchasing us a couple years ago, is they came in with their super deep pockets. And they saw our business and they said, this is a good business for the future, but there are some areas you guys can improve on. And so they came in and they made the investment themselves. It was, I believe, almost $10 million that this new facility is costing. But they are building right now a new global state-of-the-art distribution center. And happy to say it's only about a 20-minute drive from the current location. So they're not leaving the Pittsburgh area. They're investing in the Pittsburgh area. Our plans are to stay in the Pittsburgh area. And that's why we like to have a supply base that is also near the Pittsburgh area. So this facility, it already has walls up. It even has a roof. They poured the foundation, and it should be late this quarter, early next quarter, that we start to put some racking up and we really start to look at transitioning into that facility. And that'll allow us to, again, adjust to the business environment that the overall market is showing. So we needed to get better as far as how we kit product and move product and store product and all that. And the easiest way to do that is by having a state-of-the-art facility specifically designed for being a distribution center. Our current distribution center is a former manufacturing center, and it's a little bit of square peg, round hole situation. And so that's why when they announced this a little over a year ago, we were all really excited to see that investment. And so there's a second to last slide, and just wanted to share a little bit more about kind of the type of business that we do specifically as a North American group. So overall, this is just a general summary in the upper left of how we got to the point we're at. I had mentioned how we're mainly an outsourced company now. That wasn't the case. Historically, we had a big plant up in Franklin, PA that would make a whole bunch of these parts and components for us, and we frankly didn't outsource very much. But we closed that facility a couple years ago, and now rely on our external supply base to supply a vast majority of our components for us. So our manufacturing facilities that we have are mainly facilities for putting machines together. It's not so much a facility where you're going to see us taking a casting and machining it down kind of stuff. We rely on an external supply base to do that for us. When you look at the breakout of the type of parts, this data is a little old, but the split up is still the same. The dollar values on the side might change a little bit, but very heavy in fabrication and machine parts. So that is a majority of what we go out to external suppliers to buy. A whole bunch of steel goes into our product, and it's not just pieces of metal that come in. It's specifically designed, specifically cut, specifically machined, drilled, all those operations in order to be put cleanly onto one of our machines. So fabrication and machine are the lifeblood of our company, but we have a whole bunch of other stuff that you combine it together is just as strong. So you'll kind of notice that these different categories, how this is broken up, mirrors very closely to how the 6 senior buyer categories are set up. But we have our mechanicals and hydraulics are all in one group, so you can see how that grows. We have our electrical that I talked about, our electronics that I talked about. And so we split it up so that you kind of had 6, and underneath those senior buyers, you'll see buyers that are specific to 1 or 2 of these categories. But these are the big ones for us. So if you guys are providers of this type of work, that's what we're looking for. And again, wanted to show where North America lies. So even though the business isn't growing in North America, you can see over 50% of our external spend is North America, which means over 50% of our global external spend is running through that global distribution center in Pittsburgh. So that's why the Pittsburgh region is key for us, and supply base in the Pittsburgh region is key for us. The rest of the world does do some localization work, but we tend to send them what we call dumb parts, but stuff that we're really not concerned about any type of competitive advantage being taken from us, especially if it's some type of distributed product where we're buying the same thing as they are, but it's just we buy it from a local distributor, they buy it from a local distributor. So as we look at the future and kind of where you guys can help us out, I listed some next steps for kind of where we want to go. And this is our, 1 to 5 years kind of down the road, but what we're focusing on getting better at. So the number one thing, we want to establish a lower cost supply base, but that isn't just, I want to make more money. It's because of those market fundamentals that I showed you. So as the business declines in North America, our customers need our machines to cost less money. It doesn't mean we want them to be less safe, break the law, less quality, or slower delivery. All those still need to be intact, but we need to be able to deliver that in a lower cost situation. And so that's where we work directly with our suppliers in order to figure out what is the best way that we can make various products cheaper while still getting the same form, fit, function, and SLQ out of it. So to do that, we've rebooted our whole design for manufacturer philosophy. So where historically we've designed for our customer, where we said specific customer in this specific application, we're going to design the product so that it fits what you need. Instead, we're going the other way, and we're looking at our supply base and saying, okay, well, how is that product actually made? What can we change about the design in order to make it easier for all of you to make it and cheaper for all of you to make it, but we still get roughly the same output in the end? And so really turning that situation around on itself. Part of that is standardization. We do have a history of changing things by a foot here, a foot there, just to help out a specific customer, when if we would just standardize on one design, you save a whole bunch more money that way, because you can buy in bulk, all you can manufacture in a more streamlined operation, and it just helps everyone across the board. So we're working on the standardization and then reducing dependency on high-risk suppliers. And so that's a little bit of a loaded statement, but it is twofold. So one, we do tend to have suppliers where they're the only ones in our entire portfolio that make something, and they make it for the whole world. And so if something happens with the relationship between us and them, it puts us in a bad spot where all of a sudden we can't easily go out and find new supply bases. So we do like to diversify a little bit, but we also want to diversify when it comes to location of suppliers as well. We all know there's certain regions of the world that are a little tougher to do business in, but we do want to reduce our risk when it comes to, say, we put a bunch of tariffs on ourselves from a country over in Asia, and those tariffs cause our cost to go up 25%. Well, all of a sudden, that drives directly into our bottom line. So we want to try and diversify our supply base and reduce that risk for situations like that coming up, where all of a sudden we have no answer for it, just have to eat that cost increase, and hopefully over a year or two, it works itself out and you get your costs down. So the last one for all of you is, how do you become a member of our team? So like I said, and like I've hopefully shown all along, we view our suppliers as part of the Komatsu family. If you ever interact with anyone from Komatsu Japan, they're big on analogies. And so they like to say that Komatsu is the body and the suppliers are the arms. And so you need both of those in order to have a full body. So it goes back to that agriculture mindset. And we don't want to have a supply base that we're constantly giving a business, taking business away, giving a business, taking business away. We want those strategic suppliers that we grow together. We weather the good times, we weather the bad times together. The mining industry is incredibly cyclical. We're in a down cycle right now, which just means as we come into 21 and 22, we're looking at an up cycle. So we want to be prepared for that so that we both win together. We're always open to looking at new suppliers. You know, a year ago, if we had this meeting, I would have said, don't even waste your time. We are keeping our supply base healthy. We're keeping our internal plants healthy. So we're not really looking for new places. As we've started to turn the corner, and hopefully there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel as we get towards the end of this year and into next year, we are interested in expanding that supply base, because one of the things we did recently to match the market conditions and everything, we shut down one of our facilities in the US. And so everything that facility was making got sent out to the other facilities. We have 6 of them, so there's plenty of them. Don't got to worry that we don't have enough manufacturing. But the capacity that was once plentiful is now starting to fill up at our internal facilities, and we're going to have to go to our outsourced facilities. Obviously, the first place we go is our strategic suppliers, but eventually they fill up, and then that's where we start to look for new suppliers. We had a big market uptick in 2018 and 2019, and we weren't really prepared for it. So what we're looking for now is to start those conversations, start that search for those alternative suppliers that can hopefully help us be prepared for an increase in business that we hope is coming. And so specific steps for you guys to take, it starts with today, and that's just that general conversation. So the senior buyers that are on the phone that you'll get a chance to talk to, they're really the gatekeepers. So they're the ones that hear you out, they review your capabilities versus what we need, they see if there's a fit. They'll do just an initial kind of kick the tires market check on what your pricing is, because we don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste our time. And if that lines up, then they make the business case to me of, hey, we really want to go and give these new guys a shot. And then the real work happens. That's where we get into, like I said, safety and quality are huge. So there's full safety and quality audits, there's surveys, documentation reviews, site audits, all these various things you'll get tired of hearing from us without any work coming your way because that process is so rigorous. But you get through that process and then you get your first order. And the first order we call first article order. And that order will come and it's purely just to test that you're able to provide to us what you said you could. So the first article test is normally on one part, maybe a batch of parts, depending on what it is. But we have you make it, we'll pay you for it, and you send it to us, and we give a full quality inspection to it, where our quality guys look at it, they review it, they compare the prints, they compare the material makeup, all those types of things. And if they say, yep, this is exactly what we were looking for, then they pass it, and that's where you move into a production supplier. Once you're in that production mode, you're an available option for sourcing, and it's where my team takes over as far as really owning you as that long-term supplier relationship. So in that production mode, like I said, delivery and cost are huge. So the better your cost is and the better your delivery is, the more work you're going to get. So say we qualify you on one part, you do a great job, you keep your costs where they're at, maybe even bring some cost out through doing volumes and that sort of stuff. Then we go, wow, these guys are really great. Let's give them a shot at this part and this part. And then maybe it's a whole category of parts. And it just continues to grow and grow and grow until eventually you're up to that strategic level for us. But overall, when you get that chance, the way to become a more used supplier of us is by proving out that capability and proving out that performance when it comes to delivery and cost. The quality, safety, law, that's all a non-starter. If that ever goes away, you go away. But when it comes to delivery and cost, we can work with you. We can try and get better. We can tell you where it's hurting, and we can really come together to try and figure out and grow as a supplier together. Because the main thing for us is we want you guys to make money just like we want to make money. So if it's not a healthy relationship all around, it's not beneficial for anyone, and then we're going to end up not getting what we really need. So I know I blew through that really quickly. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But other than that, thank you all for taking the time to sit down and hear us out. And I'm looking forward to these one-on-ones that are set up.